supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And I'm really excited to be here with you this morning. We are tackling supply chain challenges in creative ways, but I'm also going to say collaborative ways as well. You're going to hear that word a lot this morning because Fraser from Beacon Technologies is joining me, and we are talking all about supply chain collaboration, technology, and so much more. So stick with us. But first, let's hear from our show sponsors. So say you're at work and all the lights flicker and then go out. You try to move and bump into something. You turn and bump into something else. You just can't work like this. You need to be able to see what's happening. And this is exactly how your inventory feels. Fastenal has unique inventory solutions that sends data to the cloud and helps you avoid stockouts while not carrying excess inventory. Don't stay in the dark. Let Fastenal shine a light on the parts and supplies that keep your businesses running. Go to fastenal.com/LTSC to see how they do it. All right. Let's talk about what is new at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we decided to recycle a recent episode of Thoughts and Coffee on the podcast that was released yesterday. And this was an episode with DC, who hosts Action Items, and Hope, who hosts No Bullshipping across our network. And they were talking about how AI is improving supply chain sustainability. Now, as you can see from this picture, they had a really great time. So don't miss this episode. Go and check it out and take a listen as to what they were talking about. Next, on Friday, we've got Eric Johnson coming at us live with LogTech Live at 10 a.m. Eastern. And this one, it was all a meme going viral in freight. I mean, who doesn't want to go viral? So if you haven't clicked the attend button, go and click the attend button, because even if you cannot attend live, I'm going to send you the recording so that you can go and check it out and see what it's all about. All right, next, I want to say thank you to everybody signed up during our Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale for the Secret Society of Supply Chain. Lots of brand new members. We are super excited. We've got a ton of exclusive content to share with you. If you haven't signed up or checked it out, definitely go and check out the Secret Society of Supply Chain, because we have a membership group for you, exclusive content, virtual monthly meetups, and it's really exciting. I can't wait to bring the community together. All right. Next, if you are engaging with our posts across our social media, if you're commenting during our live shows, you can become our follower of the month. And this is just one of the mugs that you can receive as a follower of the month. So comment, share, engage with our posts, and you can become a follower of the month. What else is happening? So it's Giving Tuesday today. And of course, I can't do Giving Tuesday without talking about the Blended Pledge. And we've got 3 easy ways that you can donate. And of course, the Blended Pledge, we're giving away grants to cover travel expenses so that diverse voices can say yes to speaking engagements. And you can do that through Tisbest, PayPal, or GoFundMe, and we've put the link in the comments. So come and be part of the change that we all want to see. All right, without further ado, it's now time to bring up my guest for today. Good morning, Fraser, or should I say good afternoon, because you're over in Europe.
Well, good afternoon from me, but also good morning, Sarah. Lovely to see you again.
How are you? I mean, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do? I mean, most people should know who you are because they've listened to the episode. We did an episode just recently. It was episode 370, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on, where they got to know you and Beacon. But for those who don't know, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Fraser Robinson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Beacon, which is a global supply chain visibility and collaboration platform.
Amazing. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about supply chain collaboration. But before we do that, we have a poll to get to. All right. So, the question that we asked the community, because we wanted to ask the community a question that has been on Beacon's mind for a long time to find out where everybody is when it comes to collaboration within your supply chain. So, the question that we asked everybody, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to collaboration within your supply chain? Now, everybody knows, and I've got a sign behind me that says collaboration is the future of business. I talk about this a lot, Fraser. And so when I saw the question and what we were talking about today, I was really happy about that because I don't think we should stop talking about collaboration. I think we need more collaboration. We're just not quite there yet. And so these are the results. After 128 votes, we had a tie between real time information sharing and fragmented communication. Now, that didn't really surprise me. Fraser, talk to us about the meaning behind this question, why you wanted to
Yep.
ask it, and what you think about the results.
Yes, perfect. Actually, these results are fantastic and very interesting, and I'll explain why. But the reason we wanted to ask more about collaboration is that this is a big term that everyone loves to use, but collaboration means so many different things to
Right?
different people.
Like
Even in
visibility, like the
like
word
visibility,
visibility, right?
even in these answers here, what you've got is the two biggest buckets in collaboration are represented at 44% each. Real-time information sharing, which is giving people access to all the information. But then there's the communication piece, which is how do we talk to each other better to make use of this information that's being shared. So this is actually, obviously this is real. These are real polls, and actually it's amazing to see those two things coming in joint first place, because I think collaboration has much more intricate detail to it than simply this all-reaching term. It's very different things. It's nice to see those communication and information sharing, which are different aspects of collaboration, being represented so equally. It's really interesting.
Absolutely. Some of the comments that we had, people were very adamant on the communication piece, but
Yeah.
something else that came up in the comments that we didn't include in the poll was accountability.
Mm. Accountability, it's a fantastic one. And what better way to have accountability to that than to have all communication in the same place? You can see who said what and who did what. That's the ultimate in
Ooh.
accountability
But
as
do we
well.
actually want that as human beings? I mean, do
Yeah,
we truly want this?
yeah. Well, I would argue that shareholders want that from their businesses that they're
I'm
involved
sure.
in. And I think, by the way, this is what data is, right? Data actually is accountability. And if
Mhm,
you subscribe to the theory or the principle that data is the source of the solution to most problems, whether it's in supply chains or other businesses, then
mhm.
what you're looking for is truth. Data should arguably lead to truth. And I think that the same applies in accountability. It's the only way to better yourself as a business or an individual is to own the problem. And I
Right.
think that's what accountability really stems from.
So we need to get used to being uncomfortable all the time and having everything shared.
Well, hopefully, what I would argue is I would flip that around actually, and I would
Okay.
say with more data leads to better decisions, which means fewer
Well, that's
errors.
true.
So I think that's actually where this goes. I think that accountability is only scary to you if you're making guesses, if you don't
Yeah.
know what the right answer is. So
Yeah.
I think that I would put a more positive thread, the slant on that.
Well, and also being more vulnerable and actually saying, I don't have all the answers too,
Right.
right?
Yeah, completely.
Accountability leads way to vulnerability, which is what we need for communication so that we can, yes, okay, I love where this is going. And the only
Yeah.
reason why this came to my mind is because right now I'm listening to Brene Brown's book about shame and vulnerability. So I was like connecting the dots based on what I'm listening to right now. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, give us a bit of a market update. You talk
Mm,
to a lot of people.
yeah.
You were saying that you were just at an event, really cool event right before we went live. Talk to us about what you're hearing in the community among the supply chain professionals. And you're talking to, high level executives,
Mm,
really taking a look at technology, what
mm.
they want to do for 2024. And so talk to us about how they're
Yeah,
seeing it.
yeah, of
How are
course.
they thinking
Yeah,
about it?
definitely. So I'll sort of park the freight market update and the macro, supply demand piece. We can cover that separately. But in terms of what the market is saying, particularly about technology and supply chains more specifically, I am privileged to be able to speak to senior leaders in supply chains at some of the world's largest, most recognized brands, and
Mhm.
some are customers and some aren't. So it's a really sort of balanced, open conversation. And what strikes me and continues to strike me is how clear it is in the minds of most supply chain leaders, what they need to solve, and fundamentally the role that things like data and technology
Mhm.
play in those solutions. I think that is widely understood. I'm not hearing people say, well, remind me again what data can do for me and what are my problems. I think that's largely understood. What I'm seeing and continue to see is a huge diversity of some businesses are very advanced in addressing the problem and maybe forming, digitization of supply chain teams, and others are still, much earlier in their journey. But what's universal is, I think, the hesitation around how to approach solving these problems.
Mm.
Which technology should I work with? Who do I talk to? Who can I trust? And how do I solve what on paper is an enormous, seemingly enormous problem, where in fact, which often, sometimes I'm afraid, leads to the obvious solution is let's just in-house design this massive solution and just outsource a bespoke build to a fill in the blanks,
Right.
large established kind of consultancy firm. And,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid that often tends to, it's still, I think, in the minds of the answer that the companies that I think are really thinking more deeply and more experimentally about solving these problems are embracing working with startups or innovators that are focused on discrete and specific supply chain problems rather than trying to boil the proverbial ocean, if you excuse the pun.
So it kind of goes back to accountability, right? What I'm hearing from you
Definitely.
is there's some fear.
There is
There's
definitely
some
some fear.
overwhelm,
There,
right?
there is
In having
definitely,
to potentially try a
yeah.
startup that's out there or a new technology or even a technology that's been around for 4 or 5
Yeah,
years. I mean,
definitely,
that's not
definitely.
necessarily a
I
startup.
think that's right, and I think, look, if we unpack that, and I have done this, in sort of safe zones with supply chain
Mhm.
execs. I think what I'm hearing, often with some passion, is individuals saying things like the majority of my supply chain tech experience is with my ERP, and to
Right.
me, an ERP means 2-year projects with IT, very expensive and full
Mhm.
commitment. So of course you're scared, of course that's sort of the starting point. And I think that what people need to understand is there is so much low risk, affordable, discrete tech out there
Mhm.
that is easy to experiment with and easy to start to play with. And if you don't like it after 2 months, you can walk away and have lost nothing but learnt huge amounts. Or you never know, you may have
Right.
unlocked the door to a really valuable new path. And I think the other just nugget, if I may, was listening to businesses struggle or believe that they need one overarching solution, and just reminding them that most technology today
Mhm.
is built with integrations in mind. They are
Right.
designed specifically to be able to be connected, to create that all-encompassing solution. You don't and you shouldn't really go and try and build all of that on your own. It just,
Right.
nobody has succeeded thus far to do that, and it's very hard.
Well, and the other thing that I'm hearing too is that we're hearing from a lot of organizations that they have an innovative, creative culture
Mm,
within their teams and within their organizations. And yet we're seeing a bit of a disconnect in what the leaders are talking about. And
yep.
so I would implore, those organizations that are saying that they have an innovative, creative culture to go back and really examine whether they do or not. Because, if
Mm,
we have some fear around trying technology, then innovation is going to get stamped out and you're not really going to thrive in that kind of culture. And so just a thought of mine, because we talk about this all the time. And if we're going to talk about it, just make sure that it's working out in your culture. All right. So, our first article that we're talking about today, this was written by Christine Barnhart. She's a friend of Let's Talk Supply Chain, and you're going to see more of her coming up in 2024. But this is talking about the 6 benefits to embracing no code, low code. Now, we've heard a lot about no code, low code. I've had companies on talking about this. And with IT resources stretched, like you just said, Fraser, right? And talent kind of scarce when it comes to technology, Is this the answer? What do you think? Because one of the things that she mentions in this article, 80% of data needed for decisions does not live within their technology walls. And
Mhm.
this is something that I learned at a cybersecurity conference with the National Motor Freight Association just about a month or so ago. Is that you need to make sure all of your data is within your technology walls. You have to stop giving it away when you go to different websites. And so I thought that was really interesting. So, Fraser, what do you think about this article? What do you think about no code, low code? What do we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, no. When you sent me this article, I loved reading it because we don't at Beacon, certainly, we don't currently use that, that sort of vernacular, the no code, low code theme. But I think it's absolutely spot on. I think it's really appropriate because, in the world of technology, and certainly if you, as a business, aspire to optimizing whether your supply chain or other areas,
Mhm.
um, time really is not your friend.
Right.
You don't really have time to go away and spend 2 years trying to design and build in house with some outsourced firm a solution. You need to get going, and you need to get going in a very low risk, easy way. And that's what low code, no code to me really means.
Mhm.
It means, look, here's this tool. You can sign up. Often these platforms are free, and they offer you a very simple way to start doing that first chore, that first task, which you've got, that first Rubicon you've got to cross. Start getting control of the data, start importing it into one place and using it. And I think that, when I think about solving that particular problem, this no code, low code, these solutions really offer you very simple ways to bypass this ERP integration or API thing. It's like, hey, actually, if I can upload a CSV file with all this data into it, into the platform, and get going today, that is a great thing. And so that's
Mhm.
where I see these no code, low code solutions being really powerful. Get going. Just time's a wasting.
Yeah, just make sure that the data that you're importing is
Is
clean.
correct. Yeah,
Is
it's clean.
correct and clean.
Yeah,
Hey, look,
totally.
I don't understand what is happening. I put my thumb up like this and I keep getting
And
bubbles on
it's
my screen.
reading
It was
you. Yeah,
happening on Zoom. I thought it was Zoom thing, but apparently it's my computer. So
knows
just
what you're
the
doing. It's
bubbles.
the AI. It's your video AI, Sarah.
That's a little bit scary. But going back to what you were saying, right? I think that this also allows for innovation,
Yeah.
right? Being able to experiment, giving the
Yes.
opportunity to experiment, see what's out there, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
Totally.
But I
It's
almost
free.
I think of all the supply chain professionals and some stats that we shared about like 69% of supply chain professionals and leaders are still using Excel. And so I wonder, no code, low code, is that just sort of the next step up? Is that a fancier way of working in Excel that everybody's used to? Because I feel like if we can meet people where they are, because we've talked about fear, we've talked about accountability, we've talked about overwhelm. I think this could possibly be the solution to that because you can take baby steps, right?
hmm hmm Definitely. So, look, Excel or spreadsheets in the wider parlance are fantastic things. I mean, I began my life in the sort of in the finance industry. I sort of grew up in Excel, so it's a very powerful tool. And look, the innovation with data and Excel is that then technology advances. Suddenly, Excel
Mhm.
spreadsheets are shareable, right? So now everyone can look at one spreadsheet. Well, that's great. Many people in my business can now look at the same spreadsheet. But then the world moves on even further, which is, yeah, but I now I've got this world of stuff happening outside. I've got ships moving and planes moving and containers moving and stuff is happening. And how do I connect my spreadsheet to all those outside data sources?
True.
As you rightly
Yeah.
said, Sarah, 80% of this data isn't in the spreadsheet in the first place. I
Hmm.
need to now plug my spreadsheet into the world. And
Right.
it just starts to get really messy because
Mm.
suddenly your spreadsheet becomes unwieldy. And actually, what you're really interested in, spreadsheets are great for the data in. They're not always so great for the visualization and the solutioning. So
Yeah.
actually, yes, is a platform often a version of a spreadsheet or a database, or we're really just describing a database and how do you use the data in it to visualize and
Mhm.
present solutions. I think that spreadsheets are, you know, the layperson's way of thinking about what is a database, how do I capture information, platforms, solutions, they're just
Using what I know.
supercharging the data to make it
Yeah.
much more valuable
Yeah.
and enhance it. That's all it is.
Using what I know, but I feel like the number one question is, what version are we on?
Of
Is it
Excel,
version 21 or version 23 that I
it
need to go
must
and
be.
check out?
But and the funny thing is, think about it this way. There's a very good reason why Microsoft went around and why Google did the same thing, and they bought Excel and they bought an email solution and they bought PowerPoint. It's
Mhm.
the three of those things together form the workbench
Right.
for the worker. Platforms really bring those three things together: the visualization, the
Mm.
data piece, and the
One
communication
place.
piece.
Yeah.
It's just bringing those into one unified place.
Love
That's all
that.
it is.
All right. Well, now we need to get to supply chain collaboration. But first, I want to say hi to Angela, Larry, and Mohammed over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, this is an article that your team wrote. And can I tell you, first of all, I love the image that they created. I think that that is really fantastic. And I also really like the story. They talk about how this lady left her 10,000 kids
Glitter dolls. Yeah.
back in China and couldn't find them, and then they're at the port.
Yeah.
And so you'll have to read it to really understand the story. But what we're really talking about is sitting products cost money, no matter where it is. If they leave the factory late, if they're sitting at a port, if they're in transit, if they're sitting at your warehouse and not being sold, each part of the supply chain is costing you money when that product is sitting. So, talk to us about what is supply chain collaboration? What do you mean
Yeah.
when you say that? Like you said earlier, it means different things to different people.
Yeah. Definitely. So, look, I think that half of, and this is an inaccurate slice, but I'm just going to go with the 50-50. You know, one half of the problem, certainly with visibility, is where's the stuff? Okay, or
Mhm.
where's my data? Just everyone looking at the same thing. So, that's part of the solution of bringing data together into one place and then presenting it in one place that everyone can see. Okay, that's kind of the sort of where's my stuff problem.
Yeah.
But collaboration is not just about everyone looking at the same thing. Well, it is, but you've got to make that easy to do. Now, one approach to solving the give everyone access problem is to put everything online behind a login and all the rest of it, and give everyone a login and a password so that they can go in and search and filter for themselves. But that's just not something that everyone's going to do.
Right.
It's not useful. People don't like it. That's very sort of quite enterprisey point solution. Just give everyone a login access and they can see for themselves. Actually, what people need to do when they're collaborating is not just see the same stuff, but be able to communicate easily with one another in a very fluid way.
Mhm.
Now, there are tools out there like Slack, for example, which has done a very fantastic job of solving the collaboration communication piece, less so the visualization piece.
Right.
But so when we talk about collaboration, it's about finding a way that makes it super easy for all the actors in your supply chain to share and be able to see just what they need to see. Don't show me everything, just show me my inbound Felixstowe warehouse stuff.
And that
And
helps
then
with the overwhelm.
it helps with the overwhelm. And then you can just share that with a group of people. And now let's get you out of your inbox as well. Let's let you talk to each other in the place where you're all looking at those inbound containers into Felixstowe, for example, and move the conversation there. I mean, this is something that Google Docs has already done with
Mhm.
commenting and chat in documents,
Yeah.
design software, Figma,
Yeah.
Miro, and so on.
And now
So
somebody's done it with the bubble when I,
there
put
you
my
go. There
thumb
you
up
go.
sometimes.
Exactly right. So collaboration isn't just looking at the same stuff, it's also being able to talk to each other, to communicate with each other in the right place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just moving back to your inbox, which is the world's worst workflow management tool there is,
Or we're going
and
back to version 23 or
you're back
21
in
or
chaos.
50 for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. So this is just about the definition of collaboration and just making
Yeah.
sure that we're keeping up with that. And this is where AI becomes interesting, because suddenly if you've got your conversation happening in the right place,
Mhm.
then your AI assistant is able to jump in and answer a question that maybe I was asking you, but you're away from your desk. Maybe the AI can hop in and say, "Hey, actually, I think the answer to the question you're looking for is this." So
That's a great
it's
point.
it's collaboration is not just seeing,
Yeah.
but it's also communicating as well as
Yeah.
seeing. Those things need to happen in the same space.
So tell us a little bit really quickly about Beacon Technologies and how your technology is that supply chain collaboration software that you're talking about. And if anybody has not gone to listen to the episode with Fraser, we do a deep dive into who they are, what they do, ideal client onboarding in episode 370. So definitely go and take a listen to that. But Fraser, real quickly, how do you bring that all together in a software that's easy for everybody to use?
Yeah, definitely. So look, I think that visibility, tracking, where's my stuff, all the data, for us, that's sort of table stakes. That's fundamental, and that's what we do, no question. But the much more interesting, much bigger problem, as we see it at Beacon, is how do you move the conversation beyond tracking? This is about
Right.
collaboration now. This is about empowering those different teams. By the way, I don't mean just in your business, I mean your suppliers, your partners, your customers, your warehouse team, your procurement team, just creating these shared, discrete custom views where people can have the Slack conversation or the commenting and the documents all localized and happening in a very custom view way. It's just applying the same philosophy as a Google Docs or a
Yeah.
Microsoft 365. That same concept to this. There's a little bit of Asana, a little bit of tracking, a little bit of Google Docs, all in one place. And that's kind of how you should think about what this is that we're building.
Well, and then everybody's speaking the same language,
The same
and your
language.
data can be clean because you shouldn't have too many versions with different, you know,
Correct. Correct.
different wording or spelling for the same kind of product. All right, I love that. So we've only got about 3 minutes left, and I do want to get to our last article really quickly. So I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, but Port of Long Beach marked its busiest September on record. And why is this important? Well, we've been talking about supply and demand all year because we've seen that obviously the cargo volumes have been down for most of the year, but this is a really great sign with their new deal on their workforce, and they're talking about consumer confidence on the rise. This is a really good stat for us moving into 2024. Any final thoughts on this, Fraser, before we go?
I mean, my ultimate thought on this, being the sort of the market sort of minded person I am, is I think the best proxy for the state of the macro supply chain is freight rates. So that to me is the best leading indicator of what's happening to supply chain health, certainly from a freight perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be a bit early to call the green shoots of spring,
All right.
but I think it's cautiously optimistic from what I'm seeing. Certainly, whether that's in the US or in Europe or even in Asia. But
Well, I think the numbers from Black Friday came out over the weekend, and I think they were pretty much on target, which is,
yeah,
also a pretty good
good.
indicator
Yeah,
that everybody's back and buying.
yeah, I think that's right. I think be mindful of the regions. I think that different regions are in different economic states, but I think certainly I don't want to be the one to call it, but I'm hoping that the worst times are behind us.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Fraser has made the prediction. So by March, by March, you can
Yeah.
message him on LinkedIn and be like, well,
Groundhog Day.
big thumbs up,
See you.
or
Thanks for
we
tuning
got
in.
a little ways to go. No, I'm just kidding. I am just kidding. All right. I want to let everybody know where we are going to be. So, of course, we've got LogTech Live coming up with Eric Johnson about going viral in freight at 10 a.m. Eastern on Let's Talk Supply Chain, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Click the attend button. Even if you can't attend live, I will send you the recording. And then we're going to be at Manifest February 5th through 7th. Now, that's going to be a really, really great event. Lots of technology conversations, lots of people in the room. I think they're doubling the attendance from last year. So if you haven't taken a look, go and look at Manifest, and hopefully we will see you there. Well, Fraser, it has been such a pleasure. We've had some really great comments.
Likewise.
People have really loved the conversation about supply chain collaboration, the no code, low code. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights.
Pleasure.
Any last words for everybody?
Nope. It's always a pleasure. Just get going. Don't wait. Get started. Just take a little risk. It's not as hard as you think. Have a day.
Yes. And where can everybody find you? What's your website?
Beacon.com. Come check us out. Please do give us a call or have a go for yourself. I think you'll be excited by what we've got.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I'll be back next Tuesday. And in the meantime, have a great week, everyone.